The moment she checked her account, she thought it was a glitch. $75,000 gone. But the real nightmare wasn't the missing money. It was who took it and what they spent the money on. They always called her the easy one, the responsible one, the one who wouldn't fight back. So they stole from her, lied to her, and gaslit her. What they didn't realize was she was already planning her revenge. The glow of the dual monitors in Eden's home studio was the only light in the room at 2 a.m. While the rest of the neighborhood slept, Eden was finalizing a branding package for a high end tech firm. Every click of her mouse, every pixel adjusted, was a deposit into her future. On the corner of her desk sat a framed ultrasound photo from her 12-week scan, a reminder of the high risk scare that had nearly stolen her joy. The doctors had ordered bed rest, and the sheer terror of that week had changed Eden. It made her realize that responsible wasn't just a personality trait her family mocked, it was a survival strategy. She opened her banking app, her eyes lingering on the high yield savings account labeled Maternity and Legacy. Balance $75,402.18. That number represented 3 years of grueling freelance work, 18-hour days, and a total lack of vacations. It was her fortress. It ensured that when her daughter arrived, Eden wouldn't have to work for a single second for an entire year. No chasing clients while healing. No stressful deadlines while breastfeeding. Because of that early pregnancy scare, Eden had made a choice she now felt uneasy about. She had added her mother, Sarah, as a joint signer on the account. Just in case, James, Eden had told her husband, if I'm back in the hospital and can't authorize a transfer for the mortgage or the nursery deposits, I need someone I can trust to handle it. James, a pragmatic landscape architect, had frowned. Your mother isn't exactly financially disciplined, Eden. She treats your sister's life like a high stakes hobby. She's my mother, Eden had insisted. She knows how hard I've worked for this. She wouldn't touch it unless it was a life or death emergency for the baby. But the emergency that arrived 2 weeks later wasn't medical. It was Marie. Marie, the younger sister, the visionary, burst into the house on a Tuesday afternoon like a localized hurricane of tulle and narcissism. Behind her followed Sarah, already weeping with a theatrical sort of pride. He asked, Eden. Louis finally asked. Marie shrieked, thrusting a diamond so large it looked fake towards Eden's face. Louis was a lifestyle influencer whose entire personality was curated for an Instagram feed. He lived in a world of rented luxury and brand aligned aesthetics. He didn't just want a wedding, he wanted a production in the French Riviera. It's going to be a gala reception at a chateau in Cannes, Marie gushed, already scrolling through mood boards on her phone. Louis's parents are high society. They're contributing $50,000 for the reception alone. But they have a condition. They expect our family to match it, to show we're serious about the union, to show we're on their level. Eden felt a cold pit form in her stomach. Marie, that's $50,000. You haven't had a steady job in 18 months. How is the family supposed to match that? Marie's face fell into a practiced pout. Louis says it's about the brand, Eden. If we don't match it, his parents will think I'm just some nobody. I'll be humiliated before I even say I do. Sarah stepped forward, her hand landing on Marie's shoulder. She looked at Eden with the strange, calculating intensity. Don't be so negative, Eden. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity for Marie to secure a high society future. We have to think about the family's image. I am thinking about the family, Eden said, rubbing her 30-week bump. I'm thinking about my daughter. I'm thinking about the fact that I'm the only one in this room who actually earns a paycheck. You've always been the lucky one, Eden, Sarah said, her voice dropping to a low, manipulative hum. Things come easy to you. You have plenty of time to earn more money. Marie is in a crisis of heart. Eden didn't see the look Sarah and Marie exchanged as they left. She didn't see Sarah's hand drift towards her purse, where her bank login details were tucked away. 3 days later, Eden was at her desk, ready to pay the final 2,000 deposit for her doula and the custom crib she'd spent months picking out. She logged into the maternity fund, expecting to see the comforting 75,000. The screen loaded. Balance $20,402.18. The room went cold. $55,000 were gone. The transaction history showed a single massive wire transfer to an international account labeled Riviera Events and Management. Eden's breath hitched. She felt the baby kick, a frantic, sharp movement that mirrored her own heart. She grabbed her phone, her fingers shaking so hard she nearly dropped it, and dialed her mother. Mom, Eden choked out. The money, the maternity fund. Someone hacked the account. Someone sent $50,000 to France. We need to call the bank. We need to. Eden, stop, Sarah interrupted, her voice eerily calm, lacking any of the panic a theft should have triggered. Nobody hacked anything. I moved the money. Eden froze. You. What? I moved it into a protected family trust, Sarah said, the gaslighting beginning with the smooth precision of a practiced liar. I saw James's company was facing some local project delays, and I didn't want his potential business liabilities to put your savings at risk. I'm protecting you, Eden. I'm shielding the baby's future. Protecting me? Eden screamed. You sent it to a wedding vendor. I saw the transaction label, Mom. Give it back. Give it back right now. You're being hormonal and ungrateful, Sarah snapped, her tone turning icy. I spent my life raising you, and this is how you treat me when I'm trying to ensure our family stays together? James doesn't need to know. Nobody needs to know. It's in a trust. It's safe. Now, stop stressing. It isn't good for the baby. Sarah hung up. Eden sat in silence of the nursery, surrounded by her half-painted walls and a sense of betrayal so deep it felt like a physical drowning. Her mother had stolen her child's security, and she was currently using it to buy peonies and champagne for a visionary who had never worked a full day in her life. The gaslighting was a poison that seeped into Eden's every waking thought. Over the next week, Sarah didn't just avoid the topic of the missing money, she weaponized it. Every time Eden tried to bring up the protected trust, she would sigh dramatically, tell James that Eden was suffering from severe prenatal anxiety, and suggested she stay off her phone for the baby's sake. James, however, wasn't fooled. There is no trust, Eden, he said, his voice tight with fury as he reviewed their depleted accounts. I checked with our family lawyer. A trust takes weeks to set up, and it requires your signature as the primary earner. Your mother is lying to our faces. The breaking point arrived on a rainy Thursday afternoon. A courier arrived at the door with a thick, cream-colored envelope addressed to Mrs. Sarah Miller. Assuming it was related to the house, Eden opened it. It wasn't a bank document. It was a hand-calligraphed thank you card from a Parisian floral designer named Laitier des Fleurs. Chère Madame Sarah, the note read in elegant script, we are delighted to confirm the shipment of 5,000 white peonies for Marie and Louis's gala. Your deposit of $15,000 has been received. Your daughters are lucky to have such a generous patron. Eden felt a wave of nausea so strong she had to lean against the foyer table. The $55,000 hadn't just been moved, it was being set on fire in the French Riviera. The protected trust was a floral arrangement that would wilt in 48 hours. But as Eden sat at her desk, her freelance honed instincts for research took over. If Sarah was bold enough to steal $55,000, what else had she touched? Eden didn't just look at the savings account. She pulled a full credit report. She found the second bomb buried under a pending status. A $20,000 personal luxury loan had been taken out in Eden's name 3 weeks prior. The purpose? High end apparel and jewelry acquisition. The signature on the digital document was a perfect replica of Eden's, a signature Sarah had spent 25 years watching her daughter perfect. She didn't just take the cash, Eden whispered to James as he walked in. She took my credit. She's financing Marie's designer gown with the loan I'll be paying off until our daughter's in kindergarten. James reached for his car keys, his face a mask of rage. I'm going over there. I'm calling the police. This is identity theft, Eden. No, Eden said, her voice dropping to a low, chilling calm. She stood up, rubbing her now 32-week bump. If we call the police now, Sarah will claim it was a misunderstanding or a gift. She'll play the doting grandmother in front of a judge, and we'll be the hormonal couple who turn on their family. If we want the money back, if we want her to pay, we have to get them to France. France? James asked, confused. You want to go to the wedding? I want to go to the audit, Eden corrected. Using her professional design software, Eden began a project unlike any branding package she has ever created. She titled the file, The Riviera Audit. 1. She downloaded every bank transfer log, highlighting the path from her maternity fund to Marie's international vendors. 2. She grabbed the metadata from the loan application, proving it was signed from an IP address of Sarah's home computer while Eden was at a doctor's appointment. 3. She contacted the Parisian florist, the Cannes Chateau, and the catering company, posing as Sarah's assistant. She gathered every invoice and every confirmation, building a mountain of evidence that proved every cent of the wedding was funded by theft. For the next 2 weeks, Eden played the role of the forgiving daughter. When Sarah called to gush about the bespoke lace on Marie's dress, Eden listened. When Marie sent photos of her $500 a night hotel room, Eden liked them. She watched her mother and sister fly out to France early, draped in the spoils of her hard work. She waited until she saw the Instagram post from Louis, preparing for the brand-aligned event of the year, truly blessed by the generosity of our supporters. Eden looked at James, her suitcase packed with a laptop and a single, elegant maternity dress. The vendors think they've been paid by a wealthy patron, Eden said. Louis's parents think they've matched a prestigious dowry. Tomorrow night is the rehearsal dinner. It's time to show them exactly who is sponsoring this gala. The French Riviera was a fever dream of opulence. The air in Cannes tasted of sea salt and expensive champagne. But for Eden, every breeze felt like a personal insult. She and James checked into a modest hotel miles away from the chateau, keeping their arrival a secret until the very last moment. The rehearsal dinner was held at a private terrace overlooking the Mediterranean. It was a white tie affair, the kind of event where the flowers cost more than a year of college tuition. Marie was at the center of it all, glowing in a $20,000 gown, the very one Sarah had financed with the forged loan in Eden's name. Louis was in full influencer mode, moving through the crowd with a gimbal-mounted camera, live streaming the brand-aligned perfection to his 500,000 followers. His parents, looking like statues carved from mahogany and linen, sat at the head of the table. They were the ultimate gatekeepers of the high society life Marie so desperately craved. Eden waited until the second course, a delicate lobster bisque, was being served. She and James walked into the terrace unannounced. Eden, Sarah gasped, her wine glass wobbling. She looked panicked, her eyes darting to Marie. What are you doing here? You said you were too high risk to fly. The doctor gave me a special clearance for a family emergency, Mom, Eden said, her voice projecting with a terrifying, calm clarity. She walked toward the front of the terrace, where a massive 80-inch 4K screen had been set up to show a tribute video of Marie and Louis's romance. Actually, Eden continued, Looking at the tech assistant at the back of the terrace, the bride asked me to handle the media presentation. I'm the responsible one, remember? Before Sarah could scream, Eden plugged her laptop into the HDMI port. The screen didn't flicker to life with childhood photos. Instead, it opened a file titled The Riviera Audit, a sponsorship breakdown. Since Marie and Louis are so focused on their brand, Eden said into the microphone, I thought the guests, especially Louis's parents, should know exactly who is sponsoring tonight's festivities. The first slide was a high resolution scan of Eden's Maternity and Legacy bank statement. A red circle vibrated around the $55,000 wire transfer to Riviera Events. This is my child's maternity fund, Eden told the silent, horrified crowd. It was meant to pay for a year of life for my unborn daughter. It was drained in a single afternoon by my mother, Sarah Miller, to pay the deposit for this very chateau. Turn it off! Someone turn it off! Marie shrieked, her face turning into a panicked red. I'm just getting to your dress, Marie, Eden said, hitting the next key. The screen shifted to the identity theft report. It showed the forged loan application, the metadata proving it was signed from Sarah's home computer, and the $20,000 price tag for the lace Marie was currently wearing. Louis's parents stood up in unison. His father, a man who viewed financial impropriety as a moral failing, stared at the screen with cold, calculating eyes. Is this true? The father asked, his voice like a gavel. You didn't have the match? You stole this money from a pregnant woman? It's a family trust, Sarah wailed, her gaslighting failing her for the first time in her life. Eden is just hormonal. She doesn't understand the documents. I understand them perfectly, Eden said, flipping to the final slide, the group chat. Marie, she's so obsessed with being stable. She won't even miss it until we're back from France. Sarah, I'm shielding it from James's liabilities. She's easy to manage. I'm not a liability, James said, stepping forward beside his wife. But you and your daughter are now persons of interest in an international fraud investigation. We've already contacted the local authorities here in Cannes and the FBI back home. Eden looked at Louis's parents. I'm sorry to ruin your brand-aligned evening, but my sister's lies shouldn't be funded by my daughter's first steps. The terrace erupted. Louis's mother walked over to Marie, looked her up and down with absolute disgust, and said, There will be no wedding tomorrow. We do not align our name with common thieves. Louis, seeing his follower count begin to plummet as the live viewers realized they were watching a felony in progress, didn't even defend his fiancée. He grabbed his gimbal and walked off the terrace, leaving Marie sobbing in her stolen $20,000 dress. Eden closed her laptop. The responsible daughter had finally finished her work. The silence that followed the departure of Louis's parents was more deafening than the screaming that had preceded it. The brand-aligned fairy tale had evaporated, leaving behind the cold, fluorescent reality of a crime scene. Marie sat on the marble floor of the terrace, her $20,000 gown trailing in a puddle of spilled lobster bisque, while Sarah stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing like a landed fish. You've ruined everything, Sarah finally hissed, her voice trembling with the venomous rage. Your own sister's life, over a few $1,000s that you could have easily replaced. You're a monster, Eden. I didn't ruin this, Mom. You did when you treated my daughter's future like a line of credit, Eden replied, her voice steady. She didn't feel the hormonal weakness they had mocked. She felt a cold, sharp armor. And it isn't a few thousand. It's $75,000 of stolen labor and identity, and the bill is due now. By midnight, the news had hit the influencer circles. Louis, in a desperate attempt to save his own career, posted a formal distancing statement to his story, claiming he was a victim of Marie's family's financial deception. He blocked Marie before she could even crawl back to their shared suite. The high society guests vanished into the night, leaving the old money facade to rot under the Mediterranean moon. But the real blow came the next morning. Eden hadn't just made a scene, she had performed a surgical strike because the floral, catering, and venue contracts had been paid with funds directly traceable to grand larceny and identity theft. Eden's legal team back in the States had filed for an emergency injunction. By 9 a.m. French time, the bank had frozen the remaining balances in the Riviera events holding account. When Sarah tried to check out of the chateau, her cards were declined. When Marie tried to use the family credit card to buy a flight home, it was flagged as stolen. The hotel manager, no longer seeing a generous patron, but a potential liability, informed them that their stay was no longer sponsored. They were given 2 hours to vacate the $2,000 a night suite. Marie was forced to pack her designer bags while the staff watched her like a shoplifter. Back at the local prefecture, Eden and James sat with the translator. The funds are frozen, and the report is filed, James told her. The loan company has already flagged the $20,000 as fraudulent. Sarah's looking at felony charge for the forgery alone. Sarah called Eden 30 times that afternoon. When Eden finally picked up, her mother's voice was broken. Eden, please, Sarah sobbed. They won't let us leave the hotel without paying the incidentals. We don't have enough for the flight. Marie is having a breakdown. We're in a foreign country with nothing. You have exactly what you gave me when I looked at my bank account, Mom, Eden said. You have family loyalty. Use that to pay the bill. How could you be so cold? I'm not being cold. I'm being responsible, Eden replied. You're going to have to sell the house, Mom, the one I helped you pay the taxes on for 5 years. My lawyer is filing a civil suit for the $55,000 plus damages. If you sign the confession and agree to the sale of the house to repay the debt, I might consider asking the DA for leniency on the criminal charges. If not, I hope the French jail has brand-aligned betting. Eden hung up. She looked at her husband and her swelling stomach. For the first time in months, the baby wasn't kicking in distress. The Maternity and Legacy Fund was being reclaimed, cent by painful cent. The flight back from France was the quietest 10 hours of Eden's life. While James slept beside her, Eden watched the clouds at 30,000 feet, feeling a strange, hollow lightness. She had burned her bridge to the ground, but for the first time, she wasn't the one standing in the smoke. She was the one who had finally walked toward the light. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of cold legal precision. True to her word, Eden didn't blink. Sarah tried one last time to rally the extended family, painting Eden as a cruel pregnant daughter who put her own mother on the street. But Eden simply forwarded the Riviera audit PDF to the family group chat. The aunts and cousins who had once praised Sarah's generosity went silent when they saw the forged signatures and the bank logs. To avoid a 10-year prison sentence for grand larceny and identity fraud, Sarah was forced to enter into a structured settlement. She had to sell the suburban home she had lived in for 30 years, the home Eden had spent her own young adulthood helping to maintain. Every cent of the equity, exactly $55,000 plus the $20,000 to settle the fraudulent loan, was clawed back. Sarah moved into a cramped one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town, working a retail job she loathed just to pay her own utilities. The matriarch of the Riviera was now a woman who checked her own bank balance with trembling hands every Friday. Marie, stripped of her influencer fiancé and her designer wardrobe, which was seized as part of the fraud investigation, attempted to launch a vlog about her healing journey after a toxic family betrayal. It gained no traction. Without Lewis's followers or Eden's money to fund the aesthetic, she was just another girl in a messy apartment complaining to a camera that no one was watching. Eden and James didn't stay to watch the wreckage. They sold their own home, a place too tainted by Sarah's spare keys and Marie's sudden intrusions, and moved 3 hours away to a house with a wraparound porch and a garden that James spent his weekends meticulously planting. The nursery was finally finished. It wasn't the Instagram perfect room Marie would have designed. It was better. It was filled with hand-restored furniture, soft organic cottons, and a bookshelf packed with stories about brave women who stood their ground. When the labor pains finally came, they were intense but purposeful. In the hospital room, there was no Sarah to manage the room, no Marie to take selfies with the monitor. It was just Eden and James. When their daughter Clara was finally placed in Eden's arms, the Maternity and Legacy Fund was no longer just a number on a screen. It was a year of uninterrupted mornings, of quiet afternoon naps, and the absolute certainty that this child would never, ever be used as a line of credit. On the day that would have been Marie's first wedding anniversary, Eden sat on her new porch, watching 6-month-old Clara attempt to pull herself up. The sun caught the fine down of the baby's hairs as she wobbled, her tiny hands clutching James's fingers. She pulled out her phone. She didn't look at her mother's blocked number or the hundreds of unread pleading emails from Marie. Instead, she opened a new account she had established the day Clara was born. It was a restricted, irrevocable trust. The documents were cleared. The funds were for Clara's education and health only. And buried in the legal fine print was a character clause, a specific ironclad ban that prevented Sarah Miller or Marie Miller from ever being named as guardians, trustees, or beneficiaries, even in the event of Eden's death. Eden snapped a photo of Clara pulling herself up for the first time, the blurred, joyful motion of a child moving. She posted it to her private social media with a simple caption, "Built on a foundation of trust, not stolen dreams. Your path is clear, little one, because I cleared it myself." As she hit post, she felt the last of the resentment evaporate. She wasn't the responsible daughter anymore. She was a mother, and a mother protects her own. Sometimes family can treat you worse than strangers. What would you have done? Would you have exposed your own family like this? Would you walk away and never look back? Or did Eden go too far? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.